Belal Muhammad defeats Leon Edwards by unanimous decision to become the new UFC welterweight champion. And I've been away for about 10 days on holiday, just getting over the jet lag, getting back into regular work. So apologies for being real slack with my uploading, but I'm back, and this seemed like the perfect video to do an immediate reaction to, because I couldn't help but think during the week while I was on holiday, what would it be like if Belal Muhammad defeats Leon Edwards, given that the fan base just doesn't like him? And after about halfway through the first round, where Belal Muhammad had taken Edwards down in the first 30 seconds and was controlling him and was also making him very hesitant on the feet, I tweeted out, check out my X account, shortly into the second round, that Muhammad is making Leon Edwards fight scared. After, again, halfway through the first round, I started thinking, boy, I cannot wait to see everybody's reactions, because Leon Edwards, he looked hesitant from the first round when Belal Muhammad took him down, and it wasn't easy in the sense that Belal Muhammad didn't look like he had to put any effort into it, but nevertheless, he was able to lift Leon Edwards up pretty handily. Leon Edwards was hesitant on the feet. Belal was in his face, and the striking was looking pretty even in terms of damage. Like, Belal Muhammad at no point hurt Leon Edwards, but it was the threat of the takedown that, again, made him look hesitant. Then it didn't improve for Leon Edwards going forward. The only real success he had in this fight was the final 30 seconds, which I'm going to talk about shortly, and the third round, where he was able to reverse Belal Muhammad on the ground. And, you know, Leon Edwards showed some pretty decent transitions in this fight. But, yeah, the way Belal Muhammad was able to dump Leon Edwards in the first two rounds, and I am going to slow that moment where he dumped Edwards on his head in the second, because that is something a lot of people are talking about. But nevertheless, he was able to take Leon Edwards down pretty handily, pressure him on the feet to where Leon Edwards was hesitant, and when Edwards was letting loose with his combinations, trying to go for that head kick and those inside leg kicks, Belal, he was actually making the correct movements to avoid getting him caught clean. And, you know, Belal Muhammad, he has that striking which just doesn't look effective, it doesn't look impressive, but he's good at nullifying what you throw at him. In fact, I saw a picture of Belal Muhammad training with Jake Shields before this fight, and his striking reminded me of Jake Shields, because if you remember Jake Shields in his prime, who, by the way, I'm a bigger fan of now than I was when he was a fighter. I've always respected Jake Shields, but that guy is a man. He's a man's man. When Jake Shields was fighting, he fought a who's who of the welterweight and middleweight divisions, and when he was fighting them, he looked like he could get knocked out at any second, the way he was standing up. But Jake Shields, aside from Jake Ellenberger, was never caught clean in his prime, and that one moment against Dan Henderson. And Belal Muhammad, he looked very similar. The way he was pressuring Leon Edwards, I thought, he is open to get caught by straight left hands and jabs all night long. But it just didn't happen. So, yeah, credit to Belal Muhammad. And Leon Edwards just looked flat the entire fight. And I think that Belal Muhammad, we just have to accept, he is, again, not going to go down as the flashiest fighter in the world. He's not going to go down as the most charismatic, but he is very confident, and his ability to nullify what you throw at him and break you down with, or nullify your offense while being in your face, it's one of his most impressive attributes. Again, it's not entertaining because, again, let's be real, this fight wasn't fun to watch. It was pretty dull, but nonetheless, Belal Muhammad was able to walk through a guy who was knocked out Kamaru Usman and busted up Colby Covington. And yeah, it was quite impressive. There's all kinds of questions about what Belal was eating for this fight, because he came in looking like a welterweight version of Lou Ferrigno. The guy was massive. And, you know, we can all debate that, but nonetheless, he was able to control Leon Edwards better than Kamaru Usman was, because Kamaru Usman did not take Leon Edwards' back as much as Belal Muhammad did. In fact, nowhere near as much. So we controlled him for pretty much the entire fight, and aside from the third round where, again, Leon was able to reverse Belal's takedown, He didn't really take any damage, Belal Muhammad, until the 5th round. And this is the big question mark, because Leon Edwards was clearly behind. He was being dominated. He barely had a minute left to hold on to his welterweight title. He reversed Belal Muhammad, and he immediately went for the ground and pound. He cut Belal Muhammad very clearly across the eye, and Belal was bleeding very profusely, very quickly, and he was holding on. All of a sudden, the guy who had been in control the entire fight, more or less, was holding on for dear life, and the fans were going nuts. It was the most dramatic moment of the entire fight, but strangely, and I cannot find the answer to save my life right now, Belal Muhammad, again, he was holding on, he couldn't do anything, he was exhausted, but Leon Edwards started caring more about his head position than throwing ground and pound. As you can see on screen at the moment, he was worried about holding Belal down and positioning his head underneath Belal's armpit so that Belal couldn't punch him from the bottom, where Belal barely had the energy to even survive. He was just holding on for dear life. Very, very strange. I'm not saying that Belal Muhammad could have finished, that Leon Edwards could have finished Belal in that round, but I cannot believe a guy who was, again, seconds away from losing his title have the most dominant moment he's had in the entire fight and not go for it. He just wilted. It's almost like Leon Edwards quit in that moment. It's like he didn't care, and I don't think I've ever seen that, aside from Cyril Gane versus Francis Ngannou, but this was even more peculiar because, again, all Leon Edwards had to do was throw those elbows like the one he used to cut Belal a second ago, and he could have held on to his title. So, yeah, very, very strange, but nonetheless, Belal survived and won the fight. I have a strong feeling that, again, credit to Belal for the win, but I have a strong feeling that Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to beat him. I felt that way before the fight, that Shavkat would beat Leon Edwards and Belal, but nonetheless, Belal proved us wrong. And again, the reaction after the first round I felt was going to be hilarious if Belal kept it up, and he did. And, you know, I've certainly seen MMA Joey, who blocked me on Twitter because I called him out on some of his little tricks here and there that he uses to, you know, swipe at guys who disagree with him. And yeah, I think it's ridiculous what he does. But he seems to be the happiest man on YouTube right now. And other YouTubers are certainly thinking, oh God, we have to deal with Belal. And I'm sure I'm going to break this down in other videos, you know, how Belal's victory compares to other guys who weren't really wanted as champions. Because, again, let's just talk about the elephant in the room now that we've broken down the fight. That Belal Muhammad going into this fight was an unwanted champion. And there's all kind of accusations about why that is and how prejudiced it is, etc., etc. It's nothing to do with what a lot of people think it is. It's just that sometimes fighters are wanted as champions and sometimes they aren't. It is what it is. When Sean Strickland defeated Israel Adesanya, the UFC and the MMA media couldn't stand him as champion already. They just thought, how do we get Adesanya back as champion? When, this is going back a few years, when Anthony Pettis lost every single round to Rafael Dos Anjos when he was lightweight champion, the fan base in general was like, what do we do here? This isn't how this was supposed to go. We don't want RDA as champion. And RDA never did anything wrong. It was just people felt that Anthony Pettis was the guy who was supposed to be this big superstar. And he wasn't. Years before, when Frank Edgar defeated BJ Penn, I mean, he was unwanted by so many people to be champion, partly because it was BJ Penn, but also in general, Frank Edgar just didn't receive the respect he deserved. And there are plenty of other examples, but I just wanted to throw those particular ones in at the end of this video because I think the biggest talking point coming out of the fight, because it wasn't very entertaining, is going to be that a lot of fans wanted Belal Muhammad to not be champion, and a lot of people did. So, yeah, sometimes the narratives surrounding the fight need to replace the narratives in the fight itself. So, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Again, I'm not going anywhere. And yeah, let me know what you guys thought of Belal Muhammad dominating Edwards, really. And yeah, what do you guys make of the narratives that I think are going to dominate the MMA landscape after this fight? Again, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more, guys. Catch you all later. Peace.